we put that together to create a pitch to do season 2, because we've been trying to figure out a way to do season 2. We didn't want to do it in the same way we did it before. But anyway, so My Last Days was...
Blake Lively submitted her complaint to the California Civil Rights Department, and as one California lawyer explained while reviewing the obtained filing, the details add serious weight to the controversy. In one emotional account, Blake described what should have been one of the most beautiful nights of her career, claiming she was sent to the basement with her friends and family for over an hour because she allegedly wasn't allowed to be seen. At the same time, exclusive clips surfaced of Justin Baldoni speaking to what he called his dream team, the group that helped him edit the film and bring it to completion. While Justin Baldoni has remained mostly silent publicly, his legal team has not. His lawyer has come out swinging, signaling that the gloves are officially off. Now Blake Lively is facing a massive lawsuit that has the internet in a frenzy, yet she appears unwilling to back down. Instead, she's countering aggressively, even as the situation continues to put her reputation under intense scrutiny. Reports suggest that Blake never intended for this dispute to reach a full trial, but the situation has spiraled in ways few anticipated. Critics argue that Blake owes the public some clarity about the chaos surrounding the project. There's strong irony in her accusing Justin Baldoni of emotional blackmail, while others claim her actions have created widespread stress and disruption. The situation escalated further when Justin's attorney addressed the controversy over text messages Blake had shared publicly. According to his side, the messages were real but selectively presented, with only certain portions highlighted to support her narrative. Now that longer versions of the conversations are circulating, many believe the broader context paints a very different picture of what transpired between Blake and Justin. It's also worth noting that Justin Baldoni has not shied away from legal action in the past. He previously filed a 90-page lawsuit against the New York Times alleging libel, false light, and invasion of privacy, demonstrating that he is prepared for prolonged legal battles. Observers say this case appears no different, as he seems determined to defend his name. The drama expanded further when Ryan Reynolds and his PR team were reportedly drawn into the situation in an attempt to manage public perception. Instead of calming the storm, their involvement allegedly fueled more speculation and raised questions about why Reynolds became entangled in the dispute at all. The timeline of events adds another layer of complexity. The conflict intensified on New Year's Eve when news broke that Justin Baldoni was suing the New York Times over its coverage of Blake Lively's complaint. On that same day, Blake responded with a lawsuit of her own, seeking significant financial damages. She is suing Justin Baldoni, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, and Wayfarer Studios, the production company behind It Ends With Us, alleging mental anguish, severe emotional distress, and lost wages. As both sides continue to present their arguments, the dispute shows no signs of slowing down, and public interest remains at an all-time high. This wasn't a minor filing or a quiet procedural move. It became a federal court case in New York, immediately raising the stakes and signaling that the conflict had escalated into full-scale legal warfare. Observers describe the timing as bold and aggressive, especially because only days earlier, Blake had reportedly filed a separate action against Justin that insiders claimed she never intended to take all the way to trial. Some legal commentators characterized that earlier move as a nuisance lawsuit, suggesting it was filed more for leverage or optics than for a courtroom showdown. According to statements given to TMZ, Blake's attorneys explained that she had first submitted a complaint to the California Civil Rights Department in response to what she described as a retaliatory campaign by Wayfarer Studios. In that complaint, she alleged retaliation after raising concerns about harassment and workplace conduct, claiming violations of both federal and California law. By going through the Civil Rights Department process instead of filing a full civil lawsuit immediately, she was able to obtain a right to sue letter and publicly outlined her allegations without triggering full discovery or submitting to questioning under oath. Critics argue that this decision was highly strategic. A formal lawsuit would have required document production, disclosure of private communications, and sworn testimony. Instead, the CRD route allowed her claims to enter the public sphere under the banner of official documentation while limiting her exposure to cross-examination and evidence demands. Legal analysts say this approach can create the appearance of formal legal validation while postponing the risks that come with full litigation. Her legal team maintained that pursuing immediate full litigation would have complicated her broader objectives. Detractors, however, contend that the filings were as much about shaping public perception as they were about legal remedies. They argue that by leveraging the procedural weight of a right to sue letter, she could position herself as a victim in the public eye, generate major headlines, and control the narrative before the evidentiary process began. Supporters counter that filing with a civil rights agency is a standard and legitimate step in employment-related disputes. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's camp has responded by releasing broader context around their communications, claiming that earlier portrayals were selective and incomplete. According to his representatives, the full exchanges tell a more nuanced story and contradict key elements of Blake's public narrative. They've suggested that the complete record will allow the public to assess whether there was misconduct, retaliation, or simply a breakdown in professional collaboration. The situation has evolved beyond a straightforward legal dispute into a high-profile battle over reputation. What began as filings and counter-filings has turned into a broader media spectacle, involving major outlets like the New York Times, which published coverage of the dispute ahead of an anticipated deadline in December 2024. Critics of that reporting argue the article contained errors and omissions, while supporters maintained it reflected the information available at the time. At its core, this saga illustrates how celebrity disputes can blur the line between legal maneuvering and public relations strategy. Legal filings, press coverage, selective document releases, and online platforms have all become tools in a larger narrative struggle. For Blake Lively, the filings have shaped a story of retaliation and workplace harm. For Justin Baldoni, the counter-response centers on transparency and contextual evidence. As both sides continue to escalate, the case stands as a vivid example of how modern Hollywood conflicts play out not just in courtrooms, but across headlines, social media, and public opinion. Justin Baldoni's legal team insists that Blake never truly intended for the dispute to evolve into a prolonged courtroom fight, claiming she initially sought a way to voice complaints without stepping into a complicated legal battle. However, according to Baldoni's representatives, the documentation tells a more complicated story. They argue that key communications were selectively edited and presented without full context, including text exchanges between Blake and Justin that were later cited publicly. To counter what they describe as a misleading narrative, Baldoni's team released additional group chats and brought a message threads to show they were not orchestrating any effort to damage Blake's reputation. In one exchange they highlighted, Justin questioned how their actions might be perceived, writing that he was concerned it could look like they were trying to take her down. A response from a team member suggested that Blake's public challenges were self-inflicted rather than the result of a coordinated effort. In another message, Justin reportedly expressed concern about any appearance of planting stories, emphasizing that he did not want misinformation circulating. His legal team has pointed to these exchanges as evidence that there was no deliberate smear campaign. A central piece of Blake's original complaint to the California Civil Rights Department involved screenshots of messages that were later referenced in reporting by the New York Times. One, dated August 16th, included discussion of a Daily Mail article titled, "Is Blake Lively Set to Be Cancelled?" In the screenshot, a publicist allegedly shared the link, and responses in the thread included remarks that Blake later interpreted as proof of a coordinated negative press strategy. Baldoni's attorneys contend that the conversation was taken out of context, and that it did not support claims of an organized smear effort. They further argue that the newspaper relied heavily on the CRD complaints framing without independently verifying the broader context of the messages. According to Baldoni's camp, the allegation of a smear campaign hinges largely on that August 16th exchange. When viewed in isolation, they say, it appears suspicious. When viewed within the complete thread, they argue it reflects routine PR discussions rather than an attack strategy. They maintain that Blake's portrayal of the messages was misleading and lacked factual basis. The situation intensified when Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, publicly addressed the controversy in an interview with Megyn Kelly. During the discussion, Friedman presented what he described as additional context, including audio messages from Justin. One of the most striking claims involved the premiere of It Ends With Us, where Justin alleged that he and his family were kept away from the main event area for over an hour. That account fueled speculation about visible tension during promotional events. Fans had already noticed signs of strain, cast members appearing distant in interviews, social media unfollows, and Baldoni handling certain press appearances on his own. Some observers believe Blake's actions may have been influenced by her broader allegations against Baldoni, including claims of sexual misconduct and reputational harm, suggesting she may have felt the need to protect herself. Friedman, however, disputes that interpretation, arguing that behind-the-scenes friction stemmed from creative disagreements rather than retaliation. He also addressed criticism surrounding Blake's preparation for the film, which is based on the best-selling novel by Colleen Hoover. Given the emotional depth and complexity of It Ends With Us, expectations were high for cast familiarity with the source material. Friedman claimed that misunderstandings about the book and proposed script changes contributed to tension on set. Additionally, Blake previously alleged that Baldoni body-shamed her by questioning her weight. Baldoni's defense has been that any discussion of weight was tied to a specific training or physical performance consideration, not personal criticism. His legal team maintains that context matters in evaluating those exchanges, just as they argue it does in the broader messaging controversy. As the dispute continues, what remains clear is that the conflict has expanded far beyond a single complaint. It now encompasses lawsuits, counterclaims, media scrutiny, and competing narratives, each side presenting its own version of events while the public watches closely. Blake also alleged that Justin Baldoni barged into her trailer while she was pumping breast milk and made inappropriate comments. Baldoni's records and messages, however, tell a very different story. One text shows that Blake actually invited him into a trailer to rehearse lines during that time, directly contradicting her claim. In an interview, Brian Friedman outlined what he described as the larger strategy alleged in Blake's complaint. She claimed a two-part plan. First, to conceal supposed harassment and misconduct by Baldoni, his business partner Heath, and Wayfarer Studios. Second, that Baldoni orchestrated a calculated smear campaign aimed at destroying her personal brand, business, and emotional well-being. While concealing misconduct isn't necessarily illegal, Friedman argued that Blake's claims of coordinated retaliation were largely exaggerated, showing how strategy and perception were allegedly weaponized to create sensational headlines. Friedman also criticized Blake for launching a hairline product around the same time she was meant to be promoting It Ends With Us, framing it as another example of misplaced priorities. Between alleged smear campaigns, basement lock-ins, public lawsuits, and PR chaos, the situation painted a picture of a set riddled with tension and miscommunication. Friedman emphasized that while Blake's narrative portrays her as a victim, the evidence, including texts, audio messages, and first-hand accounts, paints a far more complex and contradictory reality. Her public advice, like telling women to throw on florals and hit theaters, further harmed her image. The film's post-production period became a PR nightmare, and Baldoni's team stepped in forcefully, accusing Blake of fabricating stories to control public perception. According to them, her actions weren't just reactive, they were part of a larger, calculated effort to seize creative control over It Ends With Us. Friedman alleged that Blake interfered with virtually every aspect of the production, from soundtrack and wardrobe to editing, and even pressured the studio to release her version of the film despite Justin's cut performing better in audience tests. Things escalated further on video. In one clip, Blake appeared visibly uneasy when an interviewer revealed she had supposedly tried to teach Justin how to be more touchy on set. Despite the presence of professional intimacy coordinators, a move that added another layer of controversy. This, combined with swirling rumors about her alleged feelings for Justin and speculation that she attempted to sabotage his career after he didn't reciprocate, made the situation even messier. Ryan Reynolds also became a focus of scrutiny. Initially seen as a bystander, more details suggested he was heavily involved, prompting criticism from fans. Reports claim he even edited scenes without the knowledge of the screenwriter or Justin and promoted the film about domestic violence in a way that some perceived as tone-deaf. Altogether, the saga illustrates a tangled mix of personal conflict, legal battles, and public perception struggles, with tensions and allegations continuing to dominate headlines. The fallout was immediate. Fans and critics alike went wild online, with many arguing that Blake Lively's biggest threat to her reputation has been herself. Allegations surfaced claiming she mistreated co-stars, interviewers, and even figures like Princess Kate, while anti-Baldoni factions clung to leaked PR messages from Justin's team. Blake, however, maintains that she's simply speaking her truth. Justin Baldoni, meanwhile, has remained resolute. Despite being reportedly sidelined from the very film he co-starred in and directed, he's making it clear that the ordeal won't break his spirit or stop him from defending his position. Even with professional oversight, like the intimacy coordinators on set, controversies kept emerging, including claims that Blake was instructing Justin on set behavior tied to sexual harassment allegations. Clips and social media chatter only fueled the debate, with some fans catching snippets on platforms like Instagram. Throughout it all, Justin has emphasized that he's not motivated by fame or fortune but by a genuine passion for storytelling and the opportunity to impact lives through his work. The saga shows no signs of slowing down. Legal filings, public statements, and behind-the-scenes drama continue to dominate conversations, leaving audiences questioning motives and allegiances. So, where do you stand? Are you Team Blake, Team Justin, or just hoping the truth comes fully to light? The story is far from over, and one thing is certain. In Hollywood, the next twist is always just around the corner.